Got it. All right. Nice job, more Optics. So what we're going to do now is I'd like we're going to go into a Q&A session. Any questions that you've got, please put them into LiveSift, and I'm going to ask Veal to sift the LiveSift questions and bring them out. But before that, we're going to give an opportunity for our judges to get up and give a little blurb about what they do or what they look for generically in terms of deals. And this might be sort of a learnable, teachable moment for those, for the budding entrepreneurs. So why don't we have our guests go first. Bob Todd of Red Rock Ventures, just stand up with the mic and face us and fill them in. And how about a big hand for Bob Todd of Red Rock Ventures?
Well, I actually got prepared for this one. So Red Rock's a software-oriented venture fund, which is about 20 years old now. And before that, I was an entrepreneur with several different tech companies. So I am now in the glide path towards no longer being in venture capital. So first of all, we do seed and Series A initial rounds. So everything we do is 3 guys in a PowerPoint for the most point, or 2 women and 1 guy.
It's going to fit this project.
Yeah. So this is in order of what we look for, and a lot of this is very counterintuitive, so feel free to ask why. The first is the team. And the statistic you need to understand is that about 80% of companies that we invest in are successful on some totally different product than what they first had. So we don't really look at the product that much. The product only shows that they can make something work, okay? Because they're eventually going to have to make something else work in order to be successful, because that product either didn't have the right features, didn't hit the market right. It was like we had an RFID company. RFID didn't work, so they had to flip over to something else. It worked, but nobody bought it. Other than that, it was fine. So we look for in a team deep domain expertise in the market they're going after. So they need to know this market. They need to know who the players are. They need to know everything about what goes on in that market, who are the customers, and have a lot of contacts. Secondly, this may be counterintuitive. They need to be able to sell, because the early deals are all sold by the founders. And if they can't sell, nothing ever happens. You never get there. You can't hire a VP of sales at the beginning, because he needs a product. You don't have one. You have an idea and bits of a product, and you got to go in and talk to the customer and kind of fashion it in front of the customer. And you come back and say, how about this? Is this? We can do that. And so and the founders have to be able to get up and do that. They've got to be flexible, because it's going to change, as I said earlier. And they have to have some management experience, because if you get a bunch of people right out of high school, it's a disaster. I mean, it's just, then we always talk about having to bring in adult supervision at some point. The second thing we look at is the market opportunity. It's got to be a very large market that's not tapped. You don't want to try to go dislodge a bunch of competitors. But it's an emerging market that's obviously going to be huge. So that you're talking about the possibility of creating $1 billion company. You don't have to say it's going to happen in 5 years or anything like that, but because it's going to be smaller. Whatever number you think it's going to be, it's going to end up being smaller and get segmented and things like that. So it's got to be a really big opportunity. We like to see, don't always get it, pilot customers or at least prospects. Because we want to talk to somebody to find out if this problem that you're telling me is such a huge problem actually is. Because we have to validate the problem, or we're not convinced. So then we could talk about product, and it's a distant third or fourth. Because I said what that proves to us is that your engineering team can actually get something done that works, and maybe people buy it or not, and hopefully they do. But it may not be the one that actually makes it for you. So does it work? Is it extensible? And do you have IP coverage? I mean, that's pretty important in our business too. So a few things we don't particularly care to see is an exit plan and timing around an exit plan. Because when you're in a Series A or a seed round, we don't know what it is. We don't know how you're going to get out or when or anything else. It could be 2 years or 12 or 20. I have one deal that's 15 years old now. I'm really tired of it. It's like it's finally starting. I mean, it's the latest late bloomer I've ever seen. So I don't really like seeing a very detailed financial plan. because you don't know enough to do a detailed financial plan. But it's just too many uncertainties. So what I like to see is a cash flow forecast. What are you going to spend your $1 million or $2 million on? And it's ideally by month or by quarter, because you do know that, or you should know that. I'm going to hire these people. We're going to do a lease. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. So you know how much cash and how long it's going to last, and then some deliverables around it. We expect to do this with that $1 million. And what we don't like is what we call a peer financing, where you have $1 million, but you should have raised $2 million, and so you get halfway there, you have nothing to show, and then you get a down round because you don't have anything to show. So you got to raise enough money to get to some deliverables, which could be a product, it could be 10 customers, it depends on each individual company what they are. And the last thing we really don't like to see is arrogance. Don't invest in those.
All right. If I could just throw 2 cents in there, was some really, really, really good advice, and I hope you all paid attention. That was really practical and real good stuff, so I really appreciate that. All right, who's going to go next? Dr. Robinson, please go next. How about a hand for Rob Robinson of Hawaii Angels?
Hi, everyone. You want me to say a few words about Hawaii Angels first? So many of you know about Hawaii Angels. Others of you perhaps would like to come to Hawaii Angels one of these days. It's an angel investor network here. We started back in 2002. In fact, Peter was one of the early guys who was helping us, and Chanel Farnsworth is here. I have various people on our executive who are here tonight. So, our objective was to have a recognized angel network that entrepreneurs could apply to for early stage financing. Over the years, we have invested in a number of companies here in Hawaii and continue to. We don't just do Hawaii companies, but mostly we do Hawaii companies. And I've also operated a couple of different funds here locally as well, primarily around the technology space, broadly speaking. We don't have the luxury in Hawaii of being restricting ourselves just to software or something like that. We have to be kind of generalists here. So in terms of what Bob said, I endorse everything he said. I had a list of 6 things, and he hit 4 of them one way or the other, and probably implied the others. I certainly had team down as one of the things. I really like to see a good team that's committed, have a lot of passion for what they do, and have a vision for what they want this thing to become. I think that's a huge thing. If I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, yeah, you could do a lot with this, but you're not really seeing it, that's not a good sign, because I've spent 45 seconds thinking about this, and you've allegedly spent months, and so I want to be shown a vision that I hadn't thought about before, that would make me think, yeah, wow, that's an interesting opportunity I hadn't thought about before. Defensible IP, absolutely. Unfair advantage, I like Jeff used that phrase, absolutely, if you've really got one. Obviously a worthwhile financial model, yeah, the $1 billion market and so on. It doesn't have to be $1 billion, but it has to be worthwhile for investors. And I think a lot of what Jeff also said, what Bob said, I would sum up as my point. I called it execution strategy. How are you going to take this idea and really go to market with it? Things he talked about, knowing your customers, knowing the market, knowing the players, and so on, I think is embodied in that. And I just want to know how you get there from here. All of presenting a pitch, I think, is going from the known to the unknown. And so you have to tell me about something that I can connect with now, and then paint a picture that takes me on a journey to that destination, which is the promised land where you arrive and make lots of money or achieve your goal, and whatever that might be. And I've come along for the ride. You don't start with that, because it just seems crazy and unrealistic. You've got to show me that you can get there from here. And so that's what I like to hear. Yeah, my biggest worry as an investor is not to be on the glide path to retirement, but falling flaming from the sky. That's what I try to avoid. So I think that's it.
You know, I've said this before, but at the risk of repeating myself, you're getting some incredible pearls of wisdom here. It kind of just seems kind of informal, and you got a guy talking, but you know, from an entrepreneur who's going to pitch a company, what you're kind of really hearing here, I'm sure from all three of these gentlemen, is really solid gold. So you should be taking notes and put your questions into LiveStep as well. We'll take some Q&A after this. How about a hand for Tim Dick, who's one of the co-founders of EFH?
Bob, may I borrow what's known in the Valley as the notes? Sure. Okay, no. You're probably getting a sense that there's a big pattern here. We kind of look at the same things. Why? Because collectively, we're not as smart as you. We don't know about your business. We don't know about your team. We don't know about your customers. So we all look at the same things. We sum that up as product, market, and team. And you have to have all three, right? Having a big market, a team that can't execute on that, well, that's not very easy. It's not a company, right? Cool, big market. You found a big market. Great. Product. Do you have a product that's appealing to the consumer? We're not smart enough to know that. So a little bit like Bob, we typically invest startup capital ventures. We typically invest after the first customers, right? Because I'm probably not your customer. I might be, but chances are pretty good, given that we tend to invest in software and services as well. We sometimes do hardware. We sometimes do material science. We'll sometimes go off the rails here. But we're almost always in our business. We tend not to do consumer plays. We're generally not the customer. So we need to look to somebody who is the customer, right? It might be a bank. It might be a supermarket. It might be, who knows what it's going to be. But are those dogs willing to pay for the dog food, right? So that's proof of market traction. So IP, of course, do you really own something that's genuinely unique? So those are the things that we all look for. And if you're thinking about what you were investing, you'd look for the same thing, right? Is this the team that's capable of delivering this baby? The baby sounds great, sounds very cute, very attractive. Can these guys make that? And so those are the three things that almost any investor is going to look like. Now, we differ by stage, right? So Bob and I invest a little bit later than the angels. So they're going to be looking at, kind of lower hurdles of those. Maybe there's a team gap or something like that. What we look for there is to say, hey, look, we don't have a salesperson. We know that, and we're working on finding that. We think we've got a couple of candidates. It's like, okay, because at that stage, or even Series A, Series B, this is not a 100% company where your org chart's filled out. You've got plenty of cash. You have early stage companies. You're going to have gaps. So this gets back a little bit to the humility thing, or the flip side of that is arrogance, right? Admit your gaps. None of us are perfect, right? So, and if you fess up to those, it's a signal saying, hey, we know what we need to work on tomorrow. Product's done. People like it. But there's, if you're telling me, here's the gaps, and they go, okay, yeah, that's a gap. Okay, I get that. That's sort of an indication that you know what you're going to do tomorrow when you wake up. What are you going to work on? Because what do we tend to want to work on when we wake up in the morning? We want to work on stuff we like to do, which is generally stuff we're good at. And if you're an entrepreneur, you've probably done all that cool stuff, and that's already done. So now you have to go and work on the hard stuff, which is what we call the gaps. So I call this, don't be a lame troika. So if you're a product person, you're passionate about the product, and the product is great there, but you've got gaps in the team, get up in the morning and work on the gaps. And tell me about the gaps when you're coming to me for an investment and so forth. So work on the gaps, product, market, team equals deal. Rob's going to be easier than Bob or I, but he's going to get your company at a cheaper price too, right? So he's going to get your company at a cheaper price. And that's about it.
Oh, I have to.
Excellent wisdom. Okay, so we've got some questions from the audience on for the panel. And so I'll just bring the question up, and you guys just hit it the way you want to hit it. We've got 10 minutes total. Can you hit that 10-minute timer so we don't go over time? All right. So the first question is, how long does it take you to make up your mind about whether to invest in a company?
Can I go first on that?
You got the mic.
No is way faster than yes.
So no takes about a minute, and yes takes about...
Sometimes they take a very short amount. But yeah, so getting to yes is a really long journey because, as Bob said, sometimes you're hopefully not 15 years working together. Gosh, that you'd be tired there. But you're going to be working together for a really long time. So yeah, you want a fast answer? The answer is no.
Bob's got one. Bob's grabbing the mic.
You need to think about it from the investor's standpoint instead of your standpoint, because it's more efficient for us to get the no quickly than to spend a lot of time and then say no, because we've wasted a ton of our time. That's all we have. So you probably will get a no fast, and yes does take a very long time because we've got to learn. We have to learn all the stuff we don't know, which is virtually everything about your business, before we make the investment.
So how much time should someone expect to go through this due diligence process? Let's say you are interested.
Well,
how long
should you
be ready for?
Of a pre-seed kind of deal, we may say, okay, we'll help you recruit another guy to the team. This is before we put any money up. We'll introduce you to some prospective customers that you can go talk to, and then we'll go talk to them after they've listened to you. So that can take 8 months.
So you're thinking almost like a year before really you make it.
Now with this Series A, where you've got a prototype, you've got some customers, all of that, it's a couple months.
Rob, how long do you take before the hammer falls?
Yeah, well, so as Tim said, we're earlier. We also angels are quicker, and there are some angels who, after they've seen your presentation, they'll say, "Yeah, I'm in," right? Better be a good presentation, but they may make up their mind there quickly. That's not typical, though. Normally, it's going to be a couple of meetings, a little bit of getting to know you, and as angels, what we worry about always is that we're not building a bridge to the institutional round. We're building, what we call a pier to nowhere, right? That we're just throwing money into this thing that's going to help keep the lights on for the next couple of months, and then you're going to go out of business. So the question is, if we give you money now, what are you going to do with it, and how are you going to leverage that money such that it's either going to help you succeed without an institutional round, which is very rare, or you are going to actually be able to get an institutional round. And so again, to use my metaphor before of going from the known to the unknown, the better that you can do a job of painting a picture of how you're going to take this money today, and that's going to get you to where you need to be, a year from now, 9 months from now, the more likely we are to write a check. So it can happen fairly quickly, and especially if you have other investors already that we can talk to and so on. If we're the first money that you're raising and you've never raised money from anybody else ever before, that's going to be a couple of weeks probably at least, but it's not going to be 8 months. It's going to be faster. Yeah.
All right, thank you all for that. So next question that we have is, for each of the judges, how much do you invest in Hawaii companies versus companies elsewhere? Maybe maybe if we could express that easily in a percentage. So out of the funds that you invest, what percentage roughly of funds would you say go to local companies versus non-local companies? Tim, you've got the mic.
Well, that's pretty easy for us. So in the first fund, we did 4 deals out of 21. So about 20% of the deals, about 18% of the deal count, and about 22% of the dollars went to Hawaii companies. I want to come back to the previous question for just a moment. Most VCs see a lot of deals. On average, we see about 2 deals a day. We make maybe an average of 1 investment per quarter. So you can do the math, right? So it's more than 100 to 1. And that's the typical odds when you go in to see, a venture capital investors. 1% of the deals they see, they'll probably invest in, on average. The great luxury that we have, and I think we're really privileged here in Hawaii, is we get to see and meet you guys regularly. We've been following some deals for 3-4 years, and we've seen them execute or not. right? So we actually get the luxury of watching deals grow up, mature, begin to have product, begin to have sales, which is the point where we start to be, meeting our investment criteria. That's impossible in Silicon Valley. The entrepreneurs move fast, the deals move too fast. You're not going to get to know somebody seriously until you're very, very close to writing a check. So we have a very special luxury and we have a very special privilege here in Hawaii of being able to get to know folks like you as you grow. For example, here's a gentleman the gentleman from Maui doesn't have a product yet, doesn't even really have a prototype. It's possible that we could be talking to you 3 years from now when you have those things and those boxes are checked and you've got a bigger deal and and bigger team and so on and so forth. That would never happen in the Valley unless it was an existing close personal friend. So you guys are lucky in that sense. The downside is we're really the only venture capitalist that regularly invests in Hawaii and does so actively and is here in the market and gets to know you. So that brings another kind of responsibility to us, which is, like most VCs, we syndicate our deal. We're not a lone ranger, so we're going to co-invest with another venture capitalist. Hopefully that venture capitalist often will say, "You're crazy, are you kidding me? You're going to invest in that?" We need more brains around the table, not only for decision making, but also brains and context for when you have invested, because that's when you need to really start rolling up your sleeves and helping that company, especially as a Series C, Series A kind of investor. So we have to syndicate the deals, and that means bringing other VCs out to Hawaii, flying back and forth across the Pacific. But we do have the luxury of spending time with you guys that we could never do in California. So
thank you, Tim. Excellent. Rob, who wants to give the percentage of deals that go local versus outside?
Yeah, so just real quick. For us, it's kind of the reverse of Tim's. We're about 80% local, about 20% mainland. So I think if you looked at the amount of money that's been applied, it's more like 2/3, 1/3, because we tended to put more money, I'd say, on the whole, to those few mainland deals that we've seen that we thought were extremely good. But yeah, we mostly in Hawaii.
Great. Bob?
Mine's even easier. We're in Palo Alto. We do everything in California.
There you go. All right. That's all right. It's great to have you here, Bob. We appreciate it. All right. Do we have another question queued up over here? Okay, great. What do you think is? Oh, here's the classic question here. What do you think? This question, by the way, has been asked for the past 30 years, or at least as long as I've been in business. What do you think is lacking in Hawaii's entrepreneurial ecosystem? Tim, how about if you pass the mic over to Rob and have Rob have a crack at that one first, then we'll leave the mic down.
This is speech 3B, right?
Yeah. Slide 25, please.
Yeah. Everything. We have a shortage of deal flow. We have a shortage of the talent pool, and we have a chronic shortage of capital. Other than that, everything is fine.
Well, we've got plenty of sunshine.
Yeah. And I think, and we have a hostile business environment. So that but on the upside, salaries are low. So and
don't forget, cost of living is high.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, what was the question? Oh, look, this is a difficult place to start a business, and I think that what's good is that we have gone through cycles where you've seen a certain critical mass start to aggregate, and it's not a linear process. I mean, we took off like a shot in 2001 with Act 221, and we grew like gangbusters. 2007, things were really starting to bubble, and then came 2008 with the banking crisis, and also the state decided to try and kill Act 221, and took them 2 years to do it, but the fix was sort of in at that point, and the economy went south. I mean, the world's economy went south, right? And people started leaving, and the businesses shut down, and things like that. And we went through some hard years, and then I would say starting about 2013, things really started picking up again. I mean, it started before that, but things have really picked up the last couple of years. And places like ProtoHUB are part of it. And Blue Startups and the Energy Accelerator and these other entities. And I was saying to Peter before this, I think the wind is kind of at our back now again for the first time in several years. But there's no question. We're deficient in all of those areas, and we really, we need to continue to work at it and to grow critical mass, and whichever part of that ecosystem you fit into, do what you can to help grow it and bring more people in. Like Tim says, he needs to bring, more VCs, his buddies here, and we need more of those people. We need more money. We need more, people coming back from the mainland with skills, engineers, etc. So, sorry. I think I got.
Yeah, you heard the buzzer. So if we can make the answers really quick, we want to try to squeeze one more question in. If you want to add something, I think, did Rob speak for all of us? Unless you want to add something to what Rob said.
No, I think what Rob said is true.
Yes.
But I'm going to come at this in a little bit different way.
Quickly.
One of the things that I would love to see, we would love to see, is more deep vertical domain expertise. When someone who has a team composed of scientists that have been working for 40 years on mirror technology comes and tells me something that is impossible in terms of photovoltaic and efficiency conversion, I'm sitting up and listening, right? Because this team is, I don't know, what has your team got, 50, 60, 70, 100 years of experience in mirrors and optics and how you focus things and turn light and heat into energy, right? Deep domain expertise. That's necessary. It's not sufficient. Doesn't turn a great idea into a great company, but that's where it starts. Because if it doesn't start with something like that, then there's no there, right? You can put all of the horizontal business experience in the world, but if the product isn't world class, it's going to go nowhere. So where do we look at Live Sift, right? PhDs in neurolinguistics and all this, I can't even pronounce the words that they're really good at. So huge deep domain expertise. I mean, great UI, and it does really cool things, but behind that is amazing mathematics and unbelievable talent. So these guys know how to beat the competition here. So we have a number of verticals that we're really good at in Hawaii. We're world class at travel and tourism. Thankfully, I actually saw a travel and tourism deal today. But I should be seeing like 1 or 2 of those every time I'm here, right? Once a month, because that's where we have great. We have some energy expertise here and capabilities. We have expertise that's coming out of the university and so on and so forth. But too often we see teams that have some thin horizontal experience and no real domain expertise in what they're proposing to go out and build a world-class company at. Well, that's not going to happen. So that's what I would love to see. I mean, look, Ma'o Farms, right? You've got a group of people here who are really passionate and committed, but they also understand how to be world-class farmers. Again, necessary but not sufficient to build a great business. But that's where it starts, is being really, really awesome at doing something. And then building that, sales is sales. Yeah, there's a couple different kinds of salespeople and techniques, but sales is sales, horizontal technique. Finance is finance. It always works the same way, right? The idea, where the core competence comes from, is that domain expertise. So.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Again, it's a long speech on that. Okay, so we're out of time. So there's one question left, which I'm going to answer myself. Why are the sharks in Hawaii nicer than on TV? It's easy, because they're not being asked to write a shark for 100 grand right now. If they had to write a shark for 100 grand right now, it would be a lot meaner. All right, I think that's it for me. I'm Peter Kay, and I'm happy to. I hope you had a good time with this. I'm going to introduce Donovan, who's going to give us a closing prayer. Donovan again.
Again, want to mahalo you guys for coming out to tonight's event. And if I could ask you guys to go on your smartphones and I send at least one thank you via Twitter to any one of our sponsors. HTDC.org. That's that Twitter handle, right? Yeah. HMAA, Central Pacific Bank, University of Hawaii, PACE. Just send one, because they helped us to put on this event. So give a round of applause to our sponsors, please. So we've got about 45 minutes until we got to close shop. So I'll leave it up to you guys. The bar is still open. There's still some cupcakes via Hokulani Bakery and Tushar in the back. We brought them in. Help yourselves and have a good night. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Donovan.